In this video, we'll learn how to input ground control points in our drone data processing workflow. At this point, we assume that you have already collected the coordinates for your ground control points. If you need more information on how to gather that information with a real-time kinematic GPS unit or RTK GPS, please have a look at other videos in this series. Now let's get started with the process.
To integrate our ground control points in our PhotoScan drone data processing workflow, first open PhotoScan on the computer. Once we have PhotoScan opened on the computer, add in the photos. Here I have over 1,000 photos collected of Palomar College. Once the photos are added to PhotoScan, we'll need to take the next step in the data processing workflow, which is to align the photos. In this case, I'm using the lowest accuracy setting possible for demonstrative purposes in order to cut down on the data processing time for this video. The next step in the workflow is to build a mesh. Once again, I'm going to select the low setting in order to save time in this demonstration. As you can see on my screen, I currently have the mesh here, but it's a lot easier to work with the point cloud. With the point cloud, we can see the general location of where things are based on my knowledge of collecting the ground control points from a previous day of fieldwork. I know that the first ground control point is generally in this area. So I'm going to right click it and go to Filter Photos by Point. As you can see, this leads to PhotoScan to filter out a subset of photos that contains that point location that I just clicked on. And if I click on any of the specific photos, such as this one right here, it will show me the photo itself. Within the photo, you will want to zoom in and try to find the ground control point. In my case, it is this fire hydrant right here. Once you have located the target, you're going to right click it and go to Create Marker. You should make sure that the first ground control point marker that you placed is the first ground control point in your list of ground control point coordinates from the spreadsheet that you previously created. To get more information about how to collect ground control points or how to create this spreadsheet, please look at other videos in this series. Once you have placed your first marker, to help us further reduce the number of photos we have to review, we can use the Filter Photos by Markers option. Right-click on the ground control point, that marker that you previously placed, and select Filter Photos by Markers. You can see here, PhotoScan has filtered out some photos that are likely to contain that marker. What you'll need to do now is to review each of those photos and make sure that the marker is being placed on the location of your ground control point target. You'll also note that as I fixed each of the ground control point, the color of the flag associated with the point there turns from blue to green. Like I said before, you'll have to do this review process for every single photo that contains your ground control point targets. When you're done with the first ground control point, we'll need to repeat this create marker, filter photo, and check marker location process for each of the additional ground control points. Once your ground control points and the markers have been identified and verified in your photos, the next step is to import the file that contains the coordinates of your ground control points. To learn how to build this file, please have a look at other videos in this series. As you can see in the Import CSV window, you should make sure that your information are organized in the following manner. You have an identify field for each of your points, latitude, longitude, altitude, and also the horizontal root mean square error field. Click OK to import that information and associate them with your points here. I want to point out that we're only working with 2 ground control points for the purpose of demonstration and to save time. But as I have pointed out in previous videos, the number of ground control points that you may need depends on the size and complexity of your study area. We're now ready to finish the rest of the workflow by building our dense point cloud and our orthomosaic. And again, I'm using the lowest setting in the interest of time. Before continuing with our workflow, we'll first save our project. And once that is done, we'll build our orthomosaic. Once we have finished building our orthomosaic, we can export the orthomosaic. Once the export process is complete, we can open a program such as ESRI's ArcMap in order to compare our output with an ortho that does not have any ground control points. So I'll first add in an ortho photo that does not have the ground control points. And now I'll add in the one that we just created. Let me just zoom in to a small section. Here, the planetarium on Palomar College. And you can see that the position of this building is different depending on whether I'm looking at the ortho photos with the ground control points or the ortho photos that was created without the ground control points. We can also add in a base map in order to see which of our layers may be closer to some existing outlines of where buildings are on the Palomar campus. Let's just change the transparency of our layer. So we can see here's the ortho layer with the ground control points. It pretty much lined up with this OpenStreetMap base map that we just added in, versus here, now we're looking at the layer that was created without the ground control points and compare that with our OpenStreetMap building outline. You can see that it's quite off. To give you a sense as to how off it is, we can use this measure tool and just very roughly approximate. Or better yet, let's change our distances to feet. And just using this corner of the building, you can see it's off by about 8 feet.
In this video, we showed you how you can input your ground control points in PhotoScan to enhance the locational accuracy of your drone-derived product, whether they be ortho photos or three-dimensional model. Keep in mind that ground control points are not always needed for your drone data processing workflow, but you should definitely use them if your task or project requires a high level of accuracy. Thank you.